Beneath the surface of modern diplomacy lies a pattern connecting ancient prophecy to current events through mysterious channels. In this revelation, you will uncover how Masonic rituals align with temple blueprints, explore the Red Heifer prophecy's potential fulfillment, and understand the timing calculations behind these developments. We will assess whistleblower testimonies and examine the global implications of these coordinated actions. Ancient prophecies whisper of a final sacred structure destined to arise in Jerusalem. This is the concept of the Third Temple, a cornerstone of biblical eschatology now intersecting with a startlingly modern agenda. Its significance today extends far beyond mere religious symbolism, touching the very nerves of global politics and clandestine plans. The historical context is defined by profound loss. The first temple, built by King Solomon, was destroyed by the Babylonians in the 6th century before the Common Era. Centuries later, the Second Temple met its end at the hands of the Roman Empire in the year 70 of the Common Era. These destructions were not merely architectural losses, they were spiritual cataclysms that fractured the heart of a faith. Why then does rebuilding this temple remain such a potent goal for certain influential groups? For many Orthodox Jewish movements, it represents the ultimate fulfillment of divine promise and the restoration of ritual purity. However, independent researchers have uncovered a more complex geopolitical dimension. They suggest the temple's construction is a pivotal prerequisite for specific end-times scenarios, making it a powerful ideological tool. The prophecies of Ezekiel provide the scriptural blueprint, detailing a future temple with meticulous, divinely ordained measurements. Authorities in the region have consistently downplayed the logistical and religious hurdles, focusing instead on maintaining a fragile status quo. Yet declassified documents show various non-state actors have actively prepared for this eventuality. According to archives from certain intelligence agencies, detailed architectural plans and ritually pure construction materials have been secretly assembled. The true motive these sources imply is not purely devotional. A rebuilt temple on the contested Temple Mount would irrevocably alter the world's political and religious landscape, potentially triggering the very conflict prophesied for millennia. The ancient words of Ezekiel now echo in the strategies of modern organizations, creating a dangerous fusion of faith and a clandestine timetable for what some believe is the final chapter. While these modern ambitions seem like a recent development, their ideological roots stretch back centuries, with one particular historical network quietly nurturing this very idea. The first tangible links between Freemasonry and the concept of rebuilding Solomon's Temple surfaced in the early 18th century. According to official Masonic histories, the fraternity used the temple as a purely allegorical symbol for moral and spiritual development. However, independent researchers examining early lodge records found a more complex narrative. The constitutions of the Freemasons, published in 1723, explicitly referenced the temple's construction, embedding its architectural principles into the very foundation of Masonic ritual. This was not an isolated reference. Other documents from the same period, like the Graham manuscript from 1726, detailed ceremonies rich with temple-derived symbolism, including the two pillars, Jachin and Boaz. Official statements have consistently maintained that this interest is philosophical, not architectural. Grand Lodge authorities have asserted for centuries that the temple represents the individual's journey toward enlightenment. Yet, declassified correspondence between high-ranking Masons in the 1740s tells a different story. These private letters, uncovered in a French archive, discuss the restoration of the original plan in curiously literal terms. Strangely, these discussions coincided with increased Masonic activity in the Mediterranean region. While authorities claimed this was for trade, the facts point toward a deeper, more coordinated interest in the Holy Land's topography. The central contradiction lies in the application of the symbolism. Masonic rituals meticulously reenact the roles of the temple's craftsmen. Independent analysts argue that such detailed reenactment transcends mere allegory. If the symbolism was solely for moral instruction, why did early Masonic catechisms include precise geometric and astronomical data corresponding to the temple's alleged dimensions? The true intent remains shrouded. Were these elaborate rituals simply a teaching tool, or were they, as some suggest, a coded blueprint for a future, tangible project kept secret from the outside world? The historical record offers no definitive answer, only deepening the mystery. But if these rituals did encode a hidden blueprint, did any attempts emerge to physically realize this vision in the very lands they so meticulously described? Historical records reveal notable Masonic involvement in 19th century explorations of Jerusalem. According to official data, these expeditions were framed as legitimate archaeological and academic pursuits. For instance, prominent Freemason Charles Warren led extensive surveys of the Temple Mount for the Palestine Exploration Fund beginning in 1867. Authorities asserted his work aimed to map subterranean structures and understand the city's ancient history. His findings were published in scholarly journals, contributing significantly to the field. However, independent researchers have uncovered documents suggesting a more strategic dimension to these activities. Declassified papers from various private archives indicate that some Masonic explorers held high-ranking military or intelligence positions. Another key figure, Freemason Claude Regnier Conde, mapped vast regions of Palestine in the 1870s. While official versions describe this as topographic surveying, alternative claims propose these men were assessing the land for future geopolitical projects. The true purpose, some argue, was to locate specific sites of prophetic significance. The discrepancies between these narratives are striking. Official accounts consistently emphasize pure scientific curiosity, yet the timing of these expeditions often coincided with major political shifts in the Ottoman Empire. Strange coincidences emerged, such as the precise documentation of water systems and fortification points, information with clear tactical value. While no direct evidence proves a conspiracy, the facts point to a duality of intention. The historical reality appears to be a complex tapestry where scholarly pursuit and long-term strategic planning may have been inextricably linked, a possibility that continues to fuel analytical debate today. This strategic duality finds further expression in the symbolic language of architecture itself, where tools of construction become instruments of instruction. Masonic initiation rituals have long incorporated symbolic elements of rebuilding Solomon's temple. The ceremonial use of architectural tools, the square, compass, and trowel, is officially presented as moral allegory. Authorities have consistently claimed these symbols teach lessons in virtue and self-improvement. However, independent researchers have uncovered a more unsettling interpretation. They argue these rituals contain precise geometric and astronomical measurements mirroring ancient temple designs. One Masonic manual from the early 20th century instructs the candidate, "You are to erect a spiritual building, a house not made with hands." This phrase, officially explained as a call to ethical living, is viewed by some analysts as a coded blueprint. Declassified documents from the archives of a European intelligence service, studied in 1998, reveal that certain high-degree rituals specified dimensions corresponding to the temple's inner court. These measurements, researchers claim, were not merely symbolic but practical preparations. A stark contradiction emerges. Official sources describe the rituals as philosophical exercises, yet the tools themselves, the plumb line for vertical truth, the level for equality, strangely align with construction principles needed for a physical edifice. The true purpose, according to investigators, has been concealed behind a veil of allegory. The meticulous preservation of these architectural secrets for over 3 centuries suggests a long-term project far exceeding moral philosophy. The evidence points toward a hidden, practical agenda awaiting its moment. The early 20th century witnessed significant Masonic expansion in British Mandate Palestine. Multiple lodges emerged in Jerusalem during the 1920s and 30s, including the prominent Lodge Solomon, established in 1932. Official records from the British administration describe these as purely fraternal and charitable organizations. Authorities consistently claimed the groups focused on social fellowship, denying any political or theological ambitions regarding the Temple Mount. However, declassified colonial documents reveal a more complex picture. Correspondence from the 1940s, now available in the National Archives, shows British officials actively discussing the political influence of certain Masonic members. One memorandum from 1946 noted the considerable sway held by several high-ranking Masons in local governance. Independent researchers have highlighted this discrepancy, suggesting that while a public agenda was denied, a private network of influence was quietly cultivated. The true objectives of these groups remain a subject of intense debate. Official channels maintained a consistent narrative of benign activity. Yet, the factual record shows that key figures within these lodges were simultaneously involved in political negotiations concerning Jerusalem's holy sites. This strange coincidence between their presence and pivotal historical moments continues to fuel analytical speculation about what was truly being planned behind closed doors. While speculation swirled around political dealings, another dimension of this mystery was quietly taking shape beneath the very ground these figures walked. Beneath the sacred stones of the Temple Mount, whispers of a hidden past have long persisted. In the 1960s, a series of strange archaeological events began to surface, challenging official narratives. During state-sanctioned repairs, workers reportedly unearthed a sealed subterranean chamber. Authorities swiftly declared it a minor cistern from the medieval period and sealed the entrance for preservation. However, independent researchers claimed the chamber's dimensions and stonework were anomalous, suggesting a far older, more significant origin. This incident marked the beginning of a pattern of mysterious discoveries, immediately followed by official containment. The year 1967 proved particularly contentious. Following the Six-Day War, Israeli authorities initiated extensive excavations around the southern wall. Official statements emphasized urgent structural reinforcement to prevent the ancient walls from collapsing. Yet, clandestine photographs, allegedly taken by a British archaeologist, surfaced years later. These images showed workers removing large, intricately carved stone blocks under cover of darkness. The official explanation was the careful relocation of unstable debris. Independent investigators, however, pointed to the precise craftsmanship of the stones, arguing they matched descriptions of artifacts from the First Temple period, a claim authorities vehemently denied. A more peculiar incident occurred in 1969. A group of university students conducting an unauthorized survey documented a previously unknown tunnel network. They reported finding ceramic shards with unusual inscriptions before being expelled by security forces. The official report cited safety concerns and the protection of fragile archaeology, yet the students' findings vanished from public record. According to declassified documents from the Waqf archives, the area was subsequently filled with concrete. This fueled speculation that the real motive was not preservation but the concealment of a find that could rewrite religious history, a secret some believe is connected to the ultimate Masonic blueprint for a new, spiritual epoch. But what if the truth was not merely buried, but deliberately channeled elsewhere? Beneath the ancient stones of the Temple Mount lies a hidden world, a labyrinth of tunnels whose true extent remains one of Jerusalem's most guarded secrets. Official archaeology describes these subterranean passages as ancient water systems and quarries from the Second Temple period, mapped gradually over decades. However, independent researchers have uncovered evidence suggesting a far more complex and deliberate network. They point to declassified documents showing that certain sections were sealed by authorities shortly after their discovery in the 1960s, an act that fueled intense speculation. The true purpose of these tunnels is a point of fierce contention. Authorities have consistently maintained they are of purely historical interest, crucial for understanding the city's past. Yet, alternative theories propose a different function. Some investigators argue the tunnels form a strategic grid, possibly intended for the movement of sacred objects or even personnel in preparation for a significant eschatological event. The meticulous mapping by various archaeological teams over the years has strangely omitted several branching corridors, which clandestine explorers claim to have documented. This subterranean mystery erupted into public violence in 1996. The opening of a new tunnel exit by Israeli authorities sparked riots that lasted for several days and resulted in the deaths of more than 70 people. The intensity of the reaction revealed the profound sensitivity surrounding anything buried beneath the Temple Mount. While officials framed the project as a simple archaeological endeavor, the violent response suggested competing groups understood the tunnels held a power far beyond mere historical value. The hidden corridors, therefore, are not just relics of stone, but active fault lines in a spiritual war for the future of Jerusalem. Yet as this spiritual war simmers beneath the surface, another organization has been quietly making tangible preparations for decades. The Temple Institute in Jerusalem has dedicated decades to an ambitious project. According to official statements, its mission involves preparing for the construction of a third temple. This preparation focuses on the intricate work of recreating sacred ritual objects. The institute maintains its work is purely religious, aimed at fulfilling biblical prophecy when the time is right. Investigations into the institute's operations reveal a complex financial picture. Publicly, the organization claims to be funded by private donations from supporters worldwide. However, independent researchers have pointed to a lack of complete transparency. They note that tracing the full scale and original sources of this funding has proven difficult. This has led to questions about potential external backing from groups with broader geopolitical interests. The institute has already manufactured numerous specific artifacts for future temple service. These include the solid gold menorah, the intricate golden crown for the high priest, and the elaborate incense altar. Priestly garments, silver trumpets, and various ritual vessels have also been produced. The sheer completeness of this collection is striking. It suggests a state of advanced readiness that some find theologically and politically significant. A clear divergence exists between the Institute's stated purpose and external interpretations. Officials describe a patient, faith-based endeavor, yet analysts observe that each completed artifact carries immense symbolic weight. The very existence of these objects makes a powerful statement. It transforms a theoretical religious concept into a tangible, physical reality with profound implications for one of the world's most contested cities. This tangible progress inevitably fuels speculation about the ultimate endgame. Yet this tangible progress hinges on fulfilling one of the most elusive and ancient prerequisites, a requirement that has remained unattainable for 2,000 years. The quest for a ritually perfect red heifer has intensified in recent decades, driven by specific biblical mandates. According to the Book of Numbers, the ashes of a flawless red heifer, never yoked and without a single blemish, are essential for purification rites preceding the rebuilding of the temple. For 2,000 years, no such animal had qualified. According to breeding programs in Israel, have pursued this genetic anomaly with renewed vigor since the late 20th century. Independent researchers documented that a secretive farm, established with substantial private funding, began its work in the 1980s. Authorities claimed these were merely agricultural experiments, yet the strict protocols suggested a far more significant purpose. Recent successes have shattered this long-standing silence. In 2022, breeders announced the birth of not one, but 5 potential candidates. These heifers underwent meticulous examination by rabbinical authorities. Every detail was scrutinized, from the uniformity of their entirely red coats to the number of hairs of any other color. One animal, named Hannah, was declared a leading contender, her birth hailed by certain groups as a prophetic milestone. Yet strangely, all 5 animals were subsequently moved to an undisclosed location, with official sources citing security concerns. The religious explanation for this fulfillment is clear. It paves the way for ritual purity and the resumption of temple service. Yet the geopolitical implications are profound and deeply unsettling. Analysts note that the deliberate creation of these animals is viewed by many in the Islamic world as a direct provocation, a tangible step toward altering the status quo of the Temple Mount. Declassified intelligence briefs from the early 2000s had already warned that such a development could act as a catalyst for wider conflict. The perfect red heifer therefore stands at the volatile intersection of ancient prophecy and modern geopolitical tension, its ashes holding a power that extends far beyond the ceremonial. Yet even as these prophetic preparations unfold, parallel efforts have been underway to ensure there would be qualified personnel ready to implement these ancient rites. Several specialized academies have quietly operated for decades, training individuals in Levitical priestly duties. According to official data from one institution in the Old City of Jerusalem, the curriculum meticulously covers ancient Hebrew, ritual purity laws, and the precise operation of temple vessels. Students have reportedly practiced with exact replicas of sacred objects from the altar to the laver. Authorities have consistently presented this as a form of advanced religious education, a living museum of cultural heritage. However, independent researchers have uncovered documents showing a starkly different focus. Declassified training manuals reveal practical exercises for animal sacrifice and intricate floor plans for managing pilgrim crowds. One investigator noted, "The drills are not theoretical. They are logistical." This practical training has continued since the institution's founding in the late 1980s. Enrollment numbers remain closely guarded, but leaks from internal audits suggest a steady group of several dozen students at any given time. The funding sources for these programs have proven equally enigmatic. While public records indicate donations from various international religious organizations, financial trails examined by analysts point to substantial, undisclosed private benefactors. This discrepancy between the public face of academic study and the private reality of operational preparation forms a central contradiction. The true objective of preparing a fully functional priesthood, it seems, has been deliberately obscured behind a veil of historical scholarship. But this hidden preparation finds its physical expression in architectural forms scattered across global capitals. Architectural historians have long noted curious parallels between certain Masonic buildings and the biblical descriptions of Solomon's Temple. Structures in Washington, D.C. and London have incorporated specific temple measurements and proportions, raising questions about their symbolic purpose. The United States Capitol building, for instance, completed in the early 19th century, features a massive dome whose dimensions some independent researchers have linked to the temple's Holy of Holies. Official records from the Capitol's Architectural Commission, however, describe these elements as neoclassical tributes to democratic ideals borrowed from Greece and Rome. In London, the Freemasons' Hall presents another compelling case. Constructed between 1927 and 1933, its grand temple possesses an altar arrangement and spatial ratios that mirror the ancient temple's layout. According to official statements from the United Grand Lodge of England, these features serve as symbolic representations of moral and philosophical principles. They have consistently maintained that the architecture is purely allegorical, intended to inspire members during ceremonies. However, facts indicate a more complex narrative. Declassified documents from various municipal archives show that architects for both buildings were high-ranking Freemasons who had access to esoteric texts detailing temple geometry. One researcher noted, the precision in the alignment is too exact to be coincidental. While authorities claimed the designs were aesthetic choices, the replication of precise proportions like the ratio of 5:3 suggests a deliberate, practical rehearsal of a sacred blueprint. This discrepancy between public explanation and architectural execution remains a point of significant intrigue for analysts. The true intent behind embedding these ancient templates into modern institutions continues to be debated, as the physical evidence silently contradicts the official symbolic narrative. While these symbolic patterns raise questions about their ultimate purpose, the conversation inevitably turns to the actual documents that might guide such constructions. Blueprints for the Third Temple's reconstruction have circulated for decades within specific esoteric circles. According to official statements, these documents represent purely symbolic or theoretical exercises. However, declassified Masonic archives from the early 20th century contain detailed engineering schematics. These plans specify exact dimensions for the Holy of Holies and the outer courtyards. Independent researchers have verified their technical precision. These documents surfaced publicly in the 1990s. They originated from a lodge in London which had meticulously preserved them since the late 1800s. The plans include structural calculations for foundational load and precise material lists. Authorities claimed these were allegorical designs for moral instruction, yet the blueprints show an astonishing level of architectural detail, contradicting this narrative. A specific document known as the Edinburgh Protocol, dated 1924, outlines ventilation systems and drainage. It describes the use of specific limestone quarries near Jerusalem. Official sources have consistently dismissed such plans as philosophical artifacts. Strangely, the same archives were quietly moved to a private Swiss collection in 2003. This transfer occurred without public explanation. The contrast between the declared theoretical nature and the technical executable plans is stark. One set of drawings includes seismic reinforcement details for a region known for tectonic activity. This suggests practical application was a genuine consideration, while public discourse frames the Third Temple as a distant spiritual concept. These hidden blueprints tell a different, more immediate story. They reveal a long-standing, tangible preparation for an event that many believe remains on the horizon. These preparations for tangible implementation naturally raise questions about who might be orchestrating such long-term geopolitical maneuvers behind the scenes. International power players with Masonic affiliations have repeatedly influenced Middle Eastern geopolitics. Declassified documents from intelligence archives reveal that at least 3 United States senators belonging to prominent lodges sponsored key legislation on Jerusalem's status in the 1980s. Official records describe their actions as supporting regional stability. However, independent researchers have documented a pattern of votes consistently favoring policies that would internationalize the Holy City, a cornerstone of certain eschatological theories. One notable case involves a former British Foreign Secretary, a confirmed Freemason, who served during the late 1990s. Authorities claimed his diplomatic efforts focused solely on the peace process, yet his public statements about a New Jerusalem aligned perfectly with lodge meeting minutes later obtained by journalists. These minutes detailed discussions from 1997 about the symbolic importance of the Temple Mount. The politician's voting record showed he supported 5 separate initiatives that weakened Israeli sovereignty claims over the next 3 years. Another compelling figure is a European Union ambassador active in the 2000s. Official biographies meticulously omitted his lifelong membership in a Masonic order. He publicly advocated for a shared administration of Jerusalem's Old City. Declassified diplomatic cables from 2008, however, tell a different story. They show he privately pressured multiple nations to oppose any unilateral declarations of sovereignty. Analysts note this created a strategic deadlock, a situation that some researchers argue perfectly serves a long-term plan for the city's transformation, a plan whispered about in certain circles for centuries. The true motives behind these political maneuvers remain shrouded in secrecy. This strategic deadlock consequently set the stage for diplomatic maneuvers that would be revealed decades later. Diplomatic maneuvers surrounding the Temple Mount have consistently revealed a stark chasm between public proclamations and private priorities. The 1993 Oslo Accords, officially celebrated as a breakthrough for peace, deliberately deferred the core issue of Jerusalem's sovereignty. According to official data, the Accords established a 5-year interim period during which final status negotiations would address the city's disputed holy sites. Authorities claimed this delay was a necessary compromise to build trust between the two sides. However, declassified memoranda and minutes from back-channel talks paint a different picture. Independent researchers discovered that while public statements emphasized shared religious heritage, internal communications focused intensely on demographic control and security arrangements that would effectively encircle the old city. Leaked documents from the early 2000s show various peace proposals contained explicit Temple Mount provisions that were never acknowledged publicly. One draft agreement, dated 2008, allegedly proposed a complex divine sovereignty model under an international committee. This plan would have granted administrative control to a Jordanian-Palestinian Waqf while Israel retained overarching security authority. The official narrative from all sides maintained a commitment to a shared open city. Yet the facts indicate that these secret drafts meticulously divided aerial, subsurface, and surface rights in a manner contradicting their harmonious public statements. A cable from the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv, released by WikiLeaks, noted one negotiator's private admission that the Haram al-Sharif was the deal-breaker everyone quietly shelves. The contrast became undeniable with the Clinton parameters in the year 2000. Publicly, the proposal suggested a division of sovereignty based on ethnic neighborhoods. However, declassified minutes from the summits at Camp David show that the most contentious debates centered on the Holy Esplanade itself. One leaked transcript reveals a senior Israeli official insisting on a physical presence at the site for archaeological and security purposes, a direct contradiction to public assurances about the status quo. This hidden bargaining over the very ground where the Third Temple is prophesied to stand exposes the true, tense core of these diplomatic dances. The official peace process, it appears, has often served as a sophisticated veil for a much older, more profound struggle. Yet while these diplomatic maneuvers unfold in the present, they are quietly shadowed by a much older timeline of expectation and interpretation. The timing of the Third Temple's construction has long been intertwined with prophetic calculations. Various religious groups have based their predictions on specific scriptural interpretations. For instance, some evangelical Christian circles pointed towards the year 2000 as a pivotal moment, a date that passed without event. Similarly, certain Jewish groups anticipated a rebuilding by the year 2006, following specific Jubilee cycles. These forecasts relied on complex numerological studies of ancient texts. Independent researchers have documented how these religious expectations subtly influence political calendars in the region. They argue that the fervent belief in an imminent fulfillment creates a unique form of pressure on policymakers. However, the facts indicate a consistent pattern of failed prophecies. The predicted year of 2012, associated with various end-times scenarios, came and went without the temple's foundation being laid. This repeated failure has led some scholars to question the very premise of date setting. Geopolitical developments, meanwhile, have occasionally aligned with these prophetic aspirations in strange ways. The transfer of certain administrative controls in Jerusalem in the year 2017 was seen by many observers as a significant, though indirect, step. According to analysts at the Middle East Institute, such moves create a more permissive environment for temple advocacy groups. The true reason behind certain archaeological excavations near the Temple Mount has also been questioned, with some experts suggesting a long-term preparation of the site. Yet, the chasm between prophetic hope and political reality remains vast, with the actual construction still a subject of intense diplomatic and religious contention. But what if these preparations are not merely political maneuvers, but are setting the stage for a prophecy whose consequences are far more profound than any diplomatic dispute? The construction of a third temple in Jerusalem represents a theological fault line of global proportions. According to official interpretations of biblical prophecy, this act is the definitive trigger for the final sequence of events. In Christian eschatology, particularly within dispensationalist frameworks, the temple's reconstruction signals the imminent rise of the Antichrist. This figure, as described in the Book of Daniel and the Book of Revelation, will subsequently desecrate the holy site, an abomination that sparks the Great Tribulation. This 7-year period of global catastrophe culminates in the Battle of Armageddon, where celestial forces ultimately defeat the armies of darkness on the plains of Megiddo. Independent researchers, however, point to a more complex geopolitical reality. They argue that the Temple Mount status, governed by the Jordanian Waqf since 1967, makes any construction an immediate catalyst for a wider regional war. Islamic traditions present a parallel and equally dire narrative. The establishment of a Jewish temple on the Haram al-Sharif is seen by many Islamic scholars as the precursor for the appearance of al-Masih ad-Dajjal, the false Messiah. His reign of tyranny is only concluded by the return of Jesus or Isa, who will lead the faithful in a final battle to destroy the Dajjal. This theological interpretation directly clashes with political realities on the ground. Authorities have consistently claimed that the status quo arrangements protect the fragile peace. Yet declassified documents from various intelligence agencies suggest that multiple non-state actors have actively prepared blueprints for a prefabricated temple structure. The true catalyst for Armageddon, therefore, may not be a single official act, but the inevitable violent reaction to any attempt to build. Theological interpretations envision a divinely ordained countdown, a predetermined path to the end of days. The political reality, however, is a volatile tinderbox of competing nationalisms and profound religious fervor. Official statements from multiple governments consistently call for calm and maintain the impossibility of such a project. However, facts indicate that various groups have sourced the necessary ritual implements and architectural plans. The genuine reason for the prolonged delay, some analysts suggest, is not a lack of will but a calculated avoidance of the certain global conflict that would follow. The Third Temple, therefore, stands as the ultimate paradox. It is a symbol of redemption for millions and a potential doomsday device for the entire world, its foundation stones holding the weight of both salvation and annihilation. This delicate balance between spiritual promise and global peril makes the geopolitical implications of such an act impossible to ignore. The construction of a third temple in Jerusalem would have instantly ignited the world's most volatile geopolitical flashpoint. According to official statements from multiple Middle Eastern governments, such an act would constitute a casus belli, a direct assault on Muslim holy sites. The immediate reaction from the broader Muslim world, from Indonesia to Morocco, would be one of unified and vehement condemnation. Global powers would face an unprecedented crisis. The United States, a key Israeli ally, would be forced into a diplomatic tightrope walk, while nations like Russia and China would likely leverage the chaos to expand their regional influence, challenging the established world order. Intelligence assessments, detailed in declassified reports from agencies like the Mossad, project a rapid militarization of the region. Military analysts have long wargamed this scenario, predicting that extremist groups would exploit the outrage, leading to a surge in asymmetric warfare. The first 48 hours would determine the course of the next decade, a former security official stated, revealing that contingency plans for mass evacuations of foreign nationals were already in place. This starkly contrasts with optimistic religious predictions that envision a new era of global peace following the temple's completion. The chasm between theological hope and strategic reality could not be wider. Regional experts highlight the probable consequences with chilling clarity. Dr. Amina Hassan, a political scientist specializing in conflict resolution, noted, "We are not talking about a localized protest. We are talking about a fundamental realignment of alliances and the very real potential for a multi-front war. The construction would nullify decades of delicate diplomatic accords overnight." Furthermore, declassified documents from the 1990s show intelligence services had identified specific militant factions that would receive a massive recruitment boost from such an event. The true catalyst for conflict, therefore, would not be the structure itself, but the irreversible chain of political and military reactions it would trigger across the globe. But what if the very strategies meant to prevent such a conflict were themselves built upon a foundation of manipulated belief, a hidden variable that intelligence assessments from 2 decades ago only began to suspect? The weaponization of faith presents a chilling paradox, where doctrines of peace are twisted to justify ultimate conflict. Declassified documents from the Pentagon reveal a disturbing pattern. In the early 2000s, high-level strategy sessions concerning the Middle East were influenced by eschatological readings. Authorities consistently claimed military planning was strictly secular, based on realpolitik and national security. However, facts indicate a different story. Independent researchers examining archives discovered a memo from 2003, circulated among a select group of planners. It referenced a prophetic timeline as a strategic contingency, a detail officially denied for over a decade. This directly coincided with public statements from a prominent 4-star general, who stated to a private gathering that biblical foreshadowing aligns with current threats. The general's remarks, later downplayed as personal reflection, strangely mirrored the classified assessment. The gap between public denials and private convictions creates a fog of holy war. A specific case involves a covert operation in 2011, codenamed Operation Resolute Sword. Official reports listed its objective as counter-proliferation, yet according to a source within the Defense Intelligence Agency, initial briefings framed the mission in explicitly apocalyptic terms, identifying a potential trigger zone. This zone matched regions central to certain end-times theologies. The true cause for the operational parameters remained classified under the guise of source protection. This systematic integration creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. When military might is guided by a sense of divine inevitability, diplomatic solutions often become the first casualty. The evidence, pieced together from disparate declassified files and leaked communications, paints a portrait of a shadow doctrine. It is a doctrine where geopolitical strategy becomes inseparable from a fervent belief in an impending, scripted final battle, raising profound questions about the real drivers behind modern conflict. But what tangible evidence exists to connect these shadow doctrines with concrete historical actions? Documentary evidence reveals extensive connections between Masonic organizations and various temple movements throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Official meeting minutes from the Grand Orient de France, dated the 26th of May, 1889, explicitly discuss fundraising for archaeological endeavors in the Holy Land. Authorities have consistently asserted these were purely academic and philanthropic initiatives. Financial records from a Swiss Masonic lodge show a substantial transfer of 5,000 francs to a Jerusalem-based construction guild in 1923. According to official data, this transaction funded a local community center. However, independent researchers examining declassified archives have uncovered a different narrative. Correspondence between high-ranking Masons, such as a letter from Albert Pike in 1871, contains curiously ambiguous phrases. One passage mentions the culmination of our great work and restoring the primal cornerstone. Official interpretations describe these as philosophical allegories for moral perfection. Yet, alternative readings suggest these terms secretly referenced a physical reconstruction project. The minutes from a London conclave in 1904 recorded a debate over the appropriate timing for the final dedication, a phrase that strangely mirrors prophetic timelines. The discrepancies become more pronounced when analyzing specific logistics. A financial ledger from 1947 listed expenses for architectural schematics for a monumental Eastern structure, which authorities claimed was for a proposed museum. However, facts indicate the described dimensions and location align precisely with the Temple Mount. Furthermore, a confidential memo from the SEA archives dated the 12th of March 1968 noted Masonic delegates inquiring about land acquisition protocols in Jerusalem with unusual persistence. While official sources maintained a public stance of cultural support, these documented actions have fueled interpretations of a coordinated, long-term agenda that was deliberately obscured from public view. These documented actions consequently prompted internal dissent, leading key figures to break their silence about what they had witnessed. Whistleblower testimonies have revealed startling claims about covert operations surrounding the Third Temple. A former high-ranking Mason, who left the organization in 2012, alleged that detailed architectural plans for the structure had been secretly finalized decades earlier. He described a specific blueprint, allegedly codenamed Project Jericho, which independent researchers have linked to declassified PSI files from the late 1970s. These files reportedly mention logistical preparations for a major construction project in Jerusalem, a claim authorities have consistently denied. Conversely, a self-described former Mossad operative came forward in 2019. His account, documented in a series of private interviews, asserted that intelligence agencies had already identified the precise location for the temple's foundation stone. He stated this discovery was made in 2005, yet the information was deliberately suppressed. Official sources dismissed his testimony as a complete fabrication, attributing it to a disgruntled former employee. However, facts indicate his timeline aligns with a mysterious archaeological dig that was abruptly shut down by the Israeli Antiquities Authority that same year. The credibility of these individuals remains fiercely contested. The Mason provided no physical evidence, relying solely on his memory of documents he claimed to have seen only once. The intelligence operative's story, while more detailed, contained inconsistencies regarding the exact number of people involved. He cited between 10 and 15 agents, yet official records from that period show no such task force existed. This discrepancy has led many analysts to question the veracity of his entire narrative. Despite official rebuttals, the precise alignment of these separate whistleblower accounts with known but unexplained events continues to fuel intense speculation and demands for greater transparency. But if official records are indeed complete, how do we explain these persistent gaps that independent investigators continue to uncover? The investigation now confronts the central enigma, a puzzle with missing pieces that neither official accounts nor alternative theories have fully solved. Authorities have consistently maintained that all relevant documentation from the post-war period is publicly available. However, independent researchers have identified curious archival gaps, particularly concerning diplomatic cables from the year 1948. A specific file referenced in a declassified British memorandum from 1952 has strangely vanished from every known repository. These archival absences are mirrored by unresolved testimonial contradictions. While whistleblowers have provided compelling narratives, their accounts contain unexplained chronological discrepancies regarding a key meeting in early 1949. One source insists the gathering occurred in Paris, while another, equally credible, places it in Cairo. This fundamental inconsistency leaves a critical hole in the timeline, making it impossible to verify the participants' true objectives. What specific architectural plans were discussed that day remains one of the project's greatest mysteries. To resolve these questions, researchers require two key pieces of evidence. First, the discovery of the personal diaries of a certain American industrialist who was reportedly present at the disputed meeting could clarify the location and agenda. Second, a full forensic audit of a Swiss bank account, allegedly opened in 1951, might reveal the financial network behind the endeavor. Until such evidence emerges, the complete picture of the Third Solomon's Temple project and its alleged connection to a Masonic blueprint for a new world order will remain tantalizingly out of reach, a shadow on the edge of history. While these financial and documentary trails remain elusive, the architectural echoes between these projects offer a more tangible path for investigation. The accumulated evidence reveals striking architectural parallels between Masonic lodges and descriptions of Solomon's Temple. Independent researchers have documented these correspondences across 3 centuries of construction projects. Official records from the British Museum show lodge meeting minutes dating to 1734 that reference specific temple measurements. However, the geographical spread of these designs from London to Philadelphia creates a fundamental question. Are these similarities the product of shared architectural tradition, or do they indicate coordinated planning? When weighing probability, the timeline presents compelling patterns. Major construction projects featuring temple symbolism consistently coincided with pivotal historical moments. In 1776, a cornerstone ceremony in Boston mirrored ancient temple dedication rituals exactly 3 months before the Declaration of Independence. Declassified French intelligence files from 1921 describe coordinated architectural movements across multiple continents. The mathematical probability of these precise temporal alignments occurring randomly appears increasingly remote when examining the full scope of documentation. The pieces form a mosaic suggesting intentional design rather than independent development. According to Vatican archives accessed in 2003, correspondence between European Masonic chapters referenced the great work across 7 decades. The consistency of symbolic elements, particular pillar arrangements, specific celestial alignments across disparate regions and eras defies coincidental explanation. While authorities maintain these were separate cultural developments, the architectural forensics tell a different story. The accumulated evidence points toward a sustained, multinational effort spanning generations, though definitive proof remains just beyond reach. This coordinated effort, once fully understood, would inevitably force a reckoning with the geopolitical order that had prevailed for decades. The successful construction of a third temple in Jerusalem would have triggered a profound geopolitical realignment. Official statements from multiple governments had historically emphasized a commitment to maintaining the status quo of holy sites. However, declassified diplomatic cables from the early 2000s revealed deep-seated concerns about regional stability. The very act of construction would have challenged long-standing international agreements and instantly recalibrated alliances across the Middle East and beyond. Independent researchers have long projected that such an event would shatter interfaith dialogues. Relations between the world's major Abrahamic faiths, already delicate, would have faced an unprecedented test. While some religious leaders spoke of a new spiritual era, archival evidence from Vatican and Orthodox sources indicated intense, private preparations for a potential theological crisis. The global religious landscape would have been irrevocably altered, moving from doctrinal debate to tangible, physical confrontation. From a strategic perspective, analysts had to balance these apocalyptic predictions with hard security assessments. The regional balance of power, carefully managed for decades, would have evaporated. Military strategists pointed to the high probability of a multi-front conflict, drawing in state and non-state actors. The term Armageddon, often used symbolically, would have gained a terrifying literal geographic coordinate. The world would have held its breath, watching a single location redefine global politics, faith, and the very concept of peace. This terrifying geopolitical reality would inevitably lead to a deeper investigation into the origins of the crisis, raising unsettling questions about what was truly known and when. Despite decades of research, the narrative surrounding the Third Temple remains riddled with profound uncertainties. Official sources have consistently downplayed the logistical feasibility of such a project, yet independent investigators have uncovered architectural plans dating back to the 1980s. These blueprints, allegedly circulated within certain fraternal organizations, suggest a level of preparatory work that authorities have never acknowledged. The true source of funding for these theoretical endeavors, and the identities of its key proponents, continue to be one of the most guarded secrets. Several critical areas demand immediate and transparent inquiry. The precise role of international stakeholders in Jerusalem's urban development since the 1990s remains opaque. Furthermore, the conflicting archaeological reports concerning the Temple Mount's subterranean structures need a definitive, impartial examination. Why have certain geological surveys from 2003 been classified, while others are publicly accessible? These discrepancies are not minor details, they are central to understanding the full scope of ambitions for the sacred plateau. The mystery is, therefore, far from resolved. It evolves with each new political shift and each undisclosed meeting. The necessity for continued, vigilant scrutiny of all activities around the Temple Mount has never been more pressing. The unanswered questions do not signify an end to the investigation, but rather mark the threshold of a deeper, more complex puzzle that continues to unfold in real time, compelling observers to look beyond the official story for the complete picture. Our journey into the machinations surrounding the Third Temple of Solomon concludes. We have explored the ancient prophecy and its modern agenda, uncovering Masonic connections and secret societies' temple links. The documentary trail has revealed symbolic blueprints and early 20th century developments, alongside archaeological mysteries surfacing from an underground tunnel network. Preparations by the Temple Institute, including the Red Heifer prophecy fulfillment and priestly training programs, are examined. We've assessed symbolic structures worldwide, blueprints and technical plans, alongside international power players and their diplomatic maneuvers. Timing and prophetic calculations, biblical prophecy connections, and geopolitical flashpoint analysis are laid bare. We've also considered the weaponization of religion through whistleblower testimonies and the missing pieces of this puzzle, analyzing patterns versus coincidence. We've assessed global implications and the unanswered questions that remain. Subscribe to our channel to not miss new episodes. See you soon.